All right. Good evening, good voch, everyone. What's a Shabbos? It was Shabbos Vayishlach. So many different things happen. It's amazing how the Torah goes to a kind of resolution. The Torah goes when it comes to the life of Yaakov Avinu and Yosef and everything, until now, even Avram, the very beginning, and Yitzchak, compared to Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu is the most, he appears in most parshas in the Torah more than anybody else. I mean, Sefer Bereshis, obviously, and you have Moshe Rabbeinu afterwards. But I just an interesting Nakuda, it's the Noam Elimelech, that is a big Indian to speak about him on Moshe Shabbos as well, says that there's a certain incongruity with when Yaakov sends emissaries to Esav, and he tells him, Lovan Garti Veichar ad Oto. I resided with Lavan, and I was detained until now. I had an oxen and a donkey, and I sent to tell my master. So this is what you should tell my master to Esav. So Rashi says, Lavan Garti, he says there are two explanations. One of them says, I was I was a ger by him. I wasn't a citizen. I was like a temporary. I didn't become important. I didn't become sar v'choshem. And the second explanation is, it says, "V'tariag mitzvahs shamati," and I kept tariag mitzvahs. And the Rebbe says, the whole idea of sending the emissaries to Lavan is to appease him and to quieten his wrath from Yaakov Avinu, his anger for taking the chayr from him, the brachas. So by him saying, I lived with Lavan, and I never became part of his entourage, I never became part of his corporate culture, but I kept Taryag mitzvahs. And he says, how is this going to help matters? This is like telling Esav, he said, I'm going to go to Lavan and I'm going to get corrupted. And, no siree, no dice, nothing happened. I mean, so the Noam Elimelech puts a very important klal down. He's saying, when the tzaddik, tzaddik is connected to Hakodosh Baruch Hu all the time, and he sees everything in the world from the point of view of Hakodosh Baruch Hu all the time. So he says, when the tzaddik speaks to anyone, when he says anything, he is basically speaking to that person, and he's speaking to Hakodosh Baruch Hu at the same time. So it says this is the thing behind the duality of what Yaakov Avinu is saying. He says, "Kotam." This is what you'll say, "La doini la Esav," to my master, to Esav. He says, to my master is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and to Esav. In Lavan Gati, I lived with Lavan. So to Lavan say, I was a ger. I wasn't, I didn't make anything of myself. I didn't become anything important, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu tell him the Tarid mitzvahs shemati, that I kept the Tarid mitzvahs. It's a very important thing to understand, when we talk about Rabbeinu and we say that Rabbeinu never, as we see from Sipurey, the Maaseh of seven betlers, the Rabbeinu never, he says he never put any dibur in this world. He didn't speak of this world at any given moment in time. He didn't listen to anything that is going on in this world. He didn't see anything that's going on in this world. And he didn't taste anything of this world. In we have Sichos Haran. Rabbeinu is very, very down to earth. We have different things that Rabbeinu said about Napoleon, or different things that Rabbeinu says about various things. But the point is that Rabbeinu said it as a tzaddik. Rabbeinu said it as a point of view of somebody who's speaking to Hakodosh Baruch Hu. Speaking from vis-a-vis Hakodosh Baruch Hu. It's not the way we see things. You see this one, you can't believe what he did, what happened, blah, blah, whatever. Anyhow, and so B'Shushan, we will start, the Maaseh of the Baal Shem Tov. For this week, in one of the trips of the Baal Shem Tov, he got to a certain area in the town of Vilna. And he slept in a hotel that belonged to a very wealthy and Yeshamayim Jew. And he saw the Baal Shem Tov and he realized he's a very holy Jew. And he honored him and he gave him a special room, the luxury suite, as it were, and served him himself. After the Shachris, the Baal Shem Tov called the owner of the hotel. And he told him, you should go to the local duke and tell him that you have an old guest whose name is Israel ben Sarah, and he wants you to come to him because he has something to discuss with you. Well, the owner of the hotel, to put it very lightly, was less than enthusiastic about the idea of going and speaking to the local duke. And he says, Rabbeinu, please forgive me, but this is impossible. It is forbidden for the Jews even to enter that street where the duke lives. And anybody who transgresses this law, who breaks this law, his punishment is hanging. Says even more so, this duke is a big Soin Israel, it's a big anti-Semite, and just going into him can risk my life. The Baal Shem Tov said, don't worry. When you will go in Mashlichos, nothing bad will happen to you. And he says you should know, by refusing to go, bring upon yourself bad things, bad tidings. But the owner of the hotel refused, and because he was very much afraid of the Duke, and what will happen if you were to go there. Just came out of the room, the Baal Shem Tov, and he saw his wife lost her conscience. Was basically in life danger. He wanted to, call doctors, somebody to help his wife, and he saw his daughter and the rest of his family, they all became inflicted with cholera. He found that they all were inflicted with cholera. And the situation became very, very dire. So the owner of the hotel understood that all this has come to him because he refused to do what Baal Shem Tov told him to do. So he ran to the room of the Baal Shem Tov and asked him, please save my family. I will do whatever you want. Baal Shem Tov told him, don't worry. They're already all on the mend. You just go to the Duke and you have my promise, you have my word, that nothing, no damage, no injury will come to you. And so as the owner of the hotel goes to the street of the Duke, he was astonished to see that all the guards that were, police people, whatever it is, the gendarmes who were there in the street, and all the people that guarding the house of the Duke. Nobody even noticed that he existed. He was like invisible. Nobody prevented him from coming into the house of the Duke. And he passed in all the halls of the house, went up the stairs until he went all the way to the room of the Duke. And he told him, in my hotel, there is an old man. His name is Israel Ben Sarah. And he asked to tell you that you should come immediately to him because he has something to speak to your excellency. So the Duke heard it and he became very startled. Immediately, he got up. The owner of the hotel thought that he's going to chase him, but the Duke started running after him, still wearing his sleep pajamas, and this is how the owner of the hotel and the Duke were running after him, going out of the house, going into the street, all the way to the room of the Baal Shem Tov in the hotel. And the Duke and the Baal Shem Tov closed himself in the room. And a few minutes later, the Duke came out. The Dukes got out of the room, went back home. The Baal Shem Tov also returned home. When the Duke got back to his house, he became nonplussed. He says, what on earth made him do such an insane thing? To run in the street in his nightshirt. So he sent his police, his guards, to call the Baal Shem Tov, this old Jew in the hotel. But when they came there, the owner of the hotel told him that the Baal Shem Tov already left. Well, Pesach was coming close, and one of the Goyish children was lost. Nobody knew who he was, and he was the wagon driver that worked by the owner of the hotel. When they looked all over and they couldn't find it, so Mimela, as it was customary in those days, the suspicion fell on the owner of the hotel. The Shkutzim, the Goyim in that place, blaming him that he killed his wagon driver in order to make matzahs with it. And because of these suspicions, they arrested him, and they sentenced him to be hung. Before they took him to be killed, the judge, being that the landowner over there was the be all and end all, his word is the thing that counted. The judge had to have the signature of the Duke that he approves the judgment, the verdict. But the Duke refused to sign. He says, a few days I'm going to this big fair in a specific city to buy horses. Now, this Jew is a big expert in horses, and I need his Mavinus. So I'm going to take him with me to the fair. And when I'm finished, I'll bring him back so you can execute whatever, decide whatever verdict. And obviously, the judge went along with what the Duke wanted. And the Duke and the Jew went to the fair. And the Duke bought in the fair a lot of horses. When they came to the hotel, the Duke went in, to rest a bit. And he left the Jew outside to guard the horses. While this Jew is sitting there guarding his horses, suddenly he sees his Goyish wagon driver. Immediately, he ran to him and he grabbed him by the arm. He says, and that his wagon driver told him he should know that the town where you live, there are few going that hate you, and they hired me to go away with them, and they offered me great wealth and a woman and a home. But when I came here, they sold me for a slave. So please help me and take me back home. So when the Jew told his wagon driver, just wait here on the side and I'll do something for you. The Duke came out of the hotel. He wanted to continue on his road. So the Jew rode the new horses to the wagons, and he is preparing to be the wagon driver in the wagon of the Duke. And he specifically did it in such a way that the horses became very unruly. They refused to walk, and they became very wild. The Duke was afraid that his fancy wagon is going to turn over. He started, screaming at the Jew, to control the horses. So he says, "Sir, I'm sorry. I mean, I understand, maybe the horses, but I can't calm them down. If you want, I can call a wagon driver, a professional wagon driver that I met here, and he also lives in our town. He doesn't have money to come back to town." So the Duke says, "Call him." So he took this Goyish wagon driver, and he went and he took the reins and they went. So while they're on the way, the Duke told his Jew, says, "Do you remember that a short time ago, this old man came to you and talked to me, and I ran to him in my night clothes, my night shirt." He says, "Let me tell you what he told me when I spent the time in your room. He said, the day will come that you will be judged, you will be indicted and judged to death because of a blood libel. And he told me, he ordered me not to sign the verdict, but first of all, tell the people that you have to come with me to buy horses in the fair in the nearby town. And he says, when we will get to that town, I'll discover the truth already." So the Duke says, "I know that this is a blood libel, but I still don't understand where's the moifus of this old Jew. How are you going to save yourself from the death verdict?" The Jew smiled and says, "Why don't you ask the wagon driver that is driving the horses? He will tell you." And the Duke told him about how he was tempted to go out of town. He was sold for a slave. The Duke was amazed. He says, "I see that you are a true judge, and you prevented me from spilling, an innocent blood." And when they came to town, the Duke himself hid the wagon driver. On the day of the trial again, the Duke asked all the witnesses, blamed the hotel owner, innkeeper, whatever, that they saw the Jew killing the wagon driver. And all these, perjured witnesses came up and they all said that this is what happened. And they saw the Jew killing his wagon driver and so forth and so on. So the Duke ordered them to bring the wagon driver, and he was taken out from his hiding place. Obviously, everybody was shocked, and he told the judges what was done, that he was tempted and bribed, and because of this, the they judged the witnesses, the false witnesses, and there were 23 people that would actually executed after that trial. And this is what's reading Pashas Chokosai. Chokosai, you will go and you'll keep my mitzvahs and you'll do them. In other words, if Am Yisrael will keep the mitzvahs of Torah, they will get the schar in this world, in addition to what they get in the next world. So that's why a person has to be very careful in the morning when he says, "Save me from Azeponim, Azesponim, Adam Ra, Shachan Ra, Ein Ra, Malshinas." Whatever you say in the morning, say it with great kavanah, because it's a very, very important tefillah, a precious tefillah. Kadosh Baruch Hu, that Shem will receive the tefillah of Amo Yisrael, the Rachamim, Amen Kini Ratzin. This is the Meiser from the Baal Shem Tov, and B'ezrat Hashem, let's go for another story from right now from the Baal or Hachaim Hakodosh, the story that happened to him with the Baal Shem Tov's brother-in-law, Reb Geshen of Kitov. Reb Geshen Kitov, Baal Shem Tov's brother-in-law, went to Israel. His brother-in-law, the Baal Shem Tov, told him that he should try to go and learn the yeshiva of the Or Hachaim Hakodosh. And he told him ahead of time, you see, listen, the Or Hachaim Hakodosh has two yeshivas. One of them is they're learning in England, and the other one they're learning Nista. This is where he's teaching the most special of his students. And he said, do anything you can in order to learn also in his Nista, and don't tell the Or Hachaim Hakodosh immediately, who you are, or what you want, until the Or Hachaim Hakodosh will notice it by himself. And when Reb Geshen Kitov came to Eretz Hakodesh, obviously, but his brother-in-law Baal Shem Tov told him this is what he was going to do, and he went to the place of the Or Hachaim Hakodesh, and he went to his Besmedrash, the Nigla Besmedrash, and he decided, he wants to sit there and he wants to learn, to hear, how the Or Hachaim Hakodesh learned with his Talmidim, but his Talmidim will not let him. He says you have to get a reshus from the Or Hachaim Hakodesh, because that, foreign, strange, unknown Talmidim cannot be received. So, and at the time when the Rav comes to learn with the Talmidim, there's a guard in the Besmedrash and he pushes out all the strange people who do not belong there. So Reb Geshen Kitov had to go to the house of Hachaim Hakodesh and asked him to please allow him to listen to Torah. When he came to him, he says, who are you? And where do you come from? So he told him he comes from Poland, and I want to hear Torah from you. So the Or Hachaim Hakodesh looked at him, top to bottom, and he says, did you learn? I mean, Reb Geshen Kitov was was the Ma'odasser of his town. Did you learn? He says, yeah. He says, go to Besmedrash, and I will see to it that you come on. And Reb Geshen Kitov went to his Besmedrash, and he sat and learned for 1 week in the yeshiva of the Nigla in Or Hachaim. While he was in it, he recognized the Talmidim of the Rav, and he started to ask, he got acquainted with them. They realized that he was, Talmid Chacham. He asked him about the Yeshiva Sinister of the Or Hachaim, and they were amazed because it was a secret. The Yeshiva Sinister of the Or Hachaim Hakodesh was in a cave, and no stranger knew about it. And a lot of the people that learned in the Nigla Yeshiva of the Or Hachaim didn't know about it. Geshen Kitov, when he saw that none of them was going to tell him anything, he went again to Or Hachaim Hakodesh and asked him that he will allow him to learn in his Nista Yeshiva. Or Hachaim Hakodesh asked him, how do you know that they have a Nista Yeshiva? So he said, my brother-in-law, Rabbi Yisrael, Baal Shem Tov, told me. So the Hakodosh told him, I don't know who he is. But he looked at him again and he saw that he's befitting to learn Kabbalah. He says, after Chatzos, the guard of the Besmedish will lead you there. And this is what it was. Gershon Kitaver learned in the Nista Yeshiva for 3 days. And the 4th day, when he came there, the guard would not let him in. When he asked the guard for the reason, he said that the Rav, the Hachaim Hakodosh, ordered him not to do it because he didn't serve them in the Chachamim before Mamish. Didn't serve them, with whatever it is that what they needed, give them food or serve them with anyway. Now, the way of Rabbeinu HaKadosh Hachaim HaKadosh was to change all his clothing, from the top of his head, to his socks, whenever he went to the bathroom. And he had very specific clothing that he wore in order to go to do what he needed. And then he would travel in the mikveh. And when he went only for Ktanim, he only changed his shoes and his hat. And this is the way he behaved all those days. And the Hachaim Hakodosh says, I'm sorry, Gershon Kitaver want to be Mishanash, be Mekayim, Shimush Talmidei Chachamim. And he bided his time when will come the time that the Orach Chaim needs to go. And he saw that he changes his hat. Immediately he gave him special shoes. And the Orach Chaim didn't say anything. The next day he went to the Mer Shiva and the guard let him in. The day afterwards, the guard again wouldn't let him in. So says the Rav told him, says the Rav told me not to let you in. So now when the Orach Chaim Kodesh went home, Gershon Kitaver went to ask him why did he prevent him from going in again. And he says, when the Orach Chaim saw him, he said, have ikpeda on you. I was that with you. When I asked you about your brother-in-law, you told him Baal Shem Tov. You did Baal Shem, Abishal Baal Shem. You didn't say Tov. If you had told me that your brother-in-law is Abishal Baal Shem Tov, and I would know who he was, and I wouldn't have used you to give him my hat and my shoes in any way, form. There was a big kitvut mishamayim that allowed you to serve me. With such Talmid Chacham like Gershon Kitaver, it's only the brother, your brother-in-law, the Baal Shem Tov, was standing by me, and that saved me from being punished. And B'chlal, if he would have known the Baal Shem Tov is his brother-in-law and his Rebbe, he would, respect him and give him honor all the time, because he said that he knew the Baal Shem HaKadosh from Gan Eden HaTachton, from the lower Gan Eden, and the Yeshiva, he didn't let him go anymore. He says, being that you had the Baal Shem Tov as a Rav, you don't need another Rebbe. And these two holy people remained friends, beloved friends, from that day on. Schusat again Aleinu B'ezrat Hashem, B'schusat Baal Shem HaKadosh, Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Gershon Kitaver, B'ezrat Hashem will have a gewaldige week. And now, B'ezrat Hashem, let us go to Sichos Haran of this week. And here we go. Sicha 156. When Rabbeinu was in Uman, he heard in his house, because his house was right next to the Beis Hachaim, the voice of people that are shouting on the Beis Hachaim on the graves of their ancestors. That their way was to shout and daven there in a very bitter voice. And he said, and he heard there a woman that was crying out there on the grave of her father. He says, "My father, father, Tati," in a very bitter voice. And his daughter, when she lived, was standing there by him. And so Rabbeinu told her, this woman, is calling out really with full kavanah. She's really calling out well. Says, but the truth is that her father is not there though. And then he said that it's very good when people come to their ancestors' graves to tell the deceased who are around the grave of their fathers or mothers or whatever, that they come to them and to ask them to let them know that their son or their daughter came to them. He says, not all the deceased, live there. Many of them are actually on their grave sites. Therefore, it's very, very good to tell, their parents or their relatives. And he said as follows, but by the tzaddik, you don't have to worry about this. Maybe the tzaddik is not there. He says, because when the tzaddik passes away, it's just like he's going from one room to the next. And he said to his daughter and himself, he says, like, I'm right in this room. And if I go out of this room and I go to another room, I close the door. If you come to the door and you will cry out, Tati, Tati, you think I'm not going to hear you? And these words were heard from Rabbeinu's holy mouth a few times, that he hinted to every person how great is the schos of anybody who's zecher to come to Rabbeinu's holy gravesite. He will hear his words, and he will help, and he will help him, and he will deliver him in anything which way is possible. And there are quite a lot of sichos that were written about it, because this was his darka b'kodesh, to speak and to talk with this amazing chokhmah. And the time of the sicha, people don't understand his kavanah, but afterwards they understand in retrospect, especially this in of coming to his kaver. He spoke about it a lot, beferish and bremes many times, and as we know that he put two Adam, Reb Naftali and Baal and the Rav of Breslov to be to be Adam, that when Rabbeinu, somebody will come to Rabbeinu, will give a pruta tzedakah, that Rabbeinu will do anything possible to help this person and deliver him. He says, I will schlep him out of, if you give a pruta tzedakah and say tikkun haklali, that he will deliver him shel tachtas and tachta, and use the language. He says, I'll pull him up by the payas from beneath shel tachtias and deliver him. It's a very, very important inyan for everybody to understand. I taught my own children that, how to do it when we went to my own father and mother's grave, that, how to do it. First of all, you come to Beis Hachaim and you give some tzedakah, for, the Ilul Nishmas, whoever it is that you're coming to visit, and then to give another pruta tzedakah, and for the benefit of any nishma, of any neshama, of any nifter that is there, Beis Hachaim, that will go, the first nifter that will go and call whoever it is you're coming to visit, that pruta is, the aliyah of the neshama of that particular nifter, and that starts an amazing race because a pruta shel tzedakah, olam haba, they know what it's worth. In this world, okay, I gave, I didn't. But in olam ha'emes, they already know what this is about, what is the value of this. And it's one of the big dichotomy that exists between olam hazeh and olam haba, which comes out of the very purpose of the creation of the world. Hakodosh Baruch Hu wanted to create beings that Hakodosh Baruch Hu was still good to them, and he wanted the good to be earned, so that the people wouldn't be ashamed. When you go to someone else's house to eat, there's always a certain degree of discomfort. It's not your home. You're not in your own food. It doesn't matter how close you are with these people. It can be your children, it can be your family, but still you're in somebody else's home. The Zohar says anybody who eats something that is not his hasn't earned it, and he says he's embarrassed to look at the face of his host. So the Hakodosh Baruch Hu had to create two worlds: this world where Hakodosh Baruch Hu will be totally invisible, and the next world where everything will be visible. Rabbeinu said, when a person finally, reaches after 120 years of time where he lies on the ground with the feet to the door, means he's already passed away. He says, a person will know that had he listened to me and everything I told him, he says, there wouldn't have been a single madrega in the world that I would not have brought him to. He will know that for a fact. Rabbeinu says, however, by that time it'll be too late. The whole Inyan of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, all the tzaddikim, is to remind us to just throw our emunah in this. There's nothing we can do to make it more visible to us except keep on talking, keep on davening, keep on asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't understand it, I cannot see it. That's the way the world was created, so that I don't see it, because otherwise I have no bechira, but I know that to be the truth. So help me to do what I need to do, and help me, please, to not do what I need not to do. And keep on doing it day by day by day by day. And Baruch Hashem, we have Rabbeinu HaKadosh that we can lean on his great koyach, and himself, we'll all get to where we need to get to. Don't get discouraged by look how far I am from that, and I'm already old, or I'm already this, I'm already that, and I don't feel like I'm making any progress. It doesn't matter. You do your own. You ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you can talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for an hour, it's gewaldig. If you can talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a minute, it's also gewaldig. For a minute, ask us before 2 minutes. And whatever it is, whenever you have the chance, ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for as much time, as little time, whatever it is, ask him to save you from what you need to be saved and get to what you need to get. And after a while, with the Koyach of Rabbeinu, you will change so drastically. It doesn't matter how old you are. You will change so drastically that the people around you won't even comprehend from where such a chiddush came. It doesn't matter what age you are. We have, the Avram, the Baal Arikanti, Avram, the Moshe, the Baal Arikanti. Sefer Arikanti is one of the times of the Rambam. He writes in his Sefer, in Akdom of his Sefer, that he was 63, and some say they know that they used to be, actual letters, that's the way they used to print, that it was Pei Gimel, he was 83. He said that until that age, he was an Amaretz. He was on Amaret, but his heart was burning. He wished that Kadosh Baruch Hu will open his heart in Torah non-stop. 63, 83. Take whatever you want to, whichever way you want it. If you have been there, if I would have been there, if any normal person would have been there, would tell him, Arav, Rav Rekanti, sit down. It's not, he would come to shul, he would put his head into the Aron Kodesh, he would cry. Would beg Kodesh Baruch Hu, please open my heart in Torah. For 60 years, for 80 years, whatever it is, every single day. Every single day. The people there probably told him, Abrikanti and other young men, sit down, maybe you can get you a cup of tea, get some biscuits. It's not good for you to get so excited. Whatever it is, he said, but you need to know, one day, while he had his head inside Aron Kodesh, he fell asleep. And he said in his dream, they gave him to drink a little bit of the bear Shemiriam. And he started learning, age 63 or 83. The Shulchan Aruch is full with the Rekanti. The Kisva Arizal is full with the Rekanti. There are things of the Rekanti in Prat, Dremesh, Ras, and Sod. He was one of the great, great, great sages of the Jewish people, starting age not 40 years like Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, but age 63 or 83. Okay? So it's not too late. It's not said, but I don't see any movement. I don't see anything happening. Just do it. Baruch Hashem, we have Rabbeinu Hakodosh with us. Baal Shem Hakodosh is with us. Sichos Haran Hakodosh is with us. Bezrat Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach. Everybody will have a fantastic, gewaldige week. All of you and all of us should be healthy, should be wealthy, and should have shalom and hakol tov Bezrat Hashem. And Hashem will all meet you wherever it is that can make it in Hashem Monday night. We'll see Sipurey. I'd love to see you. So go ahead.